Hey guys, welcome in. This is Monroe Jet, otherwise known as Big Mo, and thanks for watching today. I've got a 20-minute one today, but it's really broken down into two parts. I'm going to tell you guys a lot about the equipment I'm using, the property I am, the pricing I've got, how I arrived at that, and then some tips and tricks about how to use the equipment that I've got. So first of all. The location. So this is in Nicholasville, Kentucky. So we're at Central Kentucky, bourbon country, horse racing, thoroughbred country. Lexington is where I'm born and raised. We're the horse capital of the world, self-proclaimed, that is. And this property is a 5-acre property, and it's in East Jessamine County or West Jessamine County, and about 20 minutes south of Lexington, Kentucky, which is right smack dab in Central Kentucky. Gorgeous area, bluegrass, and this guy has a sort of a dip in the property. You can see this property is worth about almost $1.5 million roughly, and there's a dip between the road, which is from this perspective to the far right, and the house on the left. You can see the house there. So in between the dip, there is this one creek on the side, which I am taking care of over here, and that's on this side of the driveway. And then on the other side of the driveway, that's the second half of the video, there's all kinds of stuff over there. It's nuts. So he said he'd cut down about 400 ash trees here. We had the green ash borer that came in, killed a whole bunch of trees. And so he went down and cut out a whole bunch of them and had about 15 to 20 burn piles, he said. So you'll see burn piles and stumps. There's a stump right there on the right there. So I've got to dodge all those things. And this creek bed has got, obviously, it's engorged itself a little bit. So there's some steep banks on either side. They're only, like 18 to 24 inches tall. But, you got to make sure that you manage that. So, as you can see, one of the tricks that I use is you face the property, you face the creek perpendicular, and then you use your hydraulic and you drop the deck down over top of it. You'll see that here. But he's got tons of saplings. He replanted a whole bunch of saplings. And the reason I left a bunch of this footage in here for you, I just sped it up to make it go kind of quick, is you can see the maneuverability. So let's talk about the equipment that I've got here. So this is a 4500Z, a 2019 Ventrac 4500Z tractor. It's 32.5 horsepower, gas Kubota engine. There's a burn pile I'm going over right there. And that tree branch came down when my ROPS, my rollover protection bar that's elevated behind me, hit it and just knocked that partially dead branch out of the tree. There's another burn pile. So that's what I've got. I've got dual wheels on this. They're all-terrain tires. The inside tire is at 10 degrees or 10 PSI, and very low air pressure tires, so they don't get easily punctured. The outside are at 8, so 8 PSI. The deck I'm running here is the Tough Cut mower deck. Evidently, there are 2 models of deck, and this is the newest one. Except just yesterday, June 16th, Ventrac rolled out an updated version of the Tough Cut deck with a couple of modifications, the major one being that you can flip it up using hydraulics. So you can see right there and get around trees, especially with the slanted part of the mower deck there between the tire. You can get really close to trees and virtually eliminate weed eating, which is fantastic. And this guy loves it because he's got 1 million trees. So a little bit more about this property. So there's creeks, there's a pond on the other side of the driveway, which you'll see, but all of those trees that he's replanted makes it really difficult for him to mow. So he used to do this about once or twice a year. He would rent a skid steer. You can see the standing water there, a couple inches deep. He would rent a skid steer for about $1,000 and be able to get about half done as to what I get done for him. And he would have to go out and weed eat all these trees. You can see that I get kind of close to them, but before I finish up, I go around and do this, which is I'll go around to all the trees, and just get them really clear. So I will bypass the trees. I'll go straight up to it, as you can see. Then I'll back up and go around it, And then as I'm coming around on another pass, there's another look at a burn pile that I went over. That's elevated. It's about 12 inches above the ground. So as I go around again, from a different angle, I'll go by and I'll cut off, like right there. I'll just cut off the other part that I left standing in the initial pass. So again, more standing water. The dual tires really make sure, I do leave tracks, okay, but in a vent track, you can see the tracks right there to the left. But in a vent track, you don't leave ruts, so you're not sinking down. I mean, vent track only weighs 2,500 pounds, even with my deck on there, right? So see, I'm trimming that part of the tree at a different pass. Just makes it a lot faster, I've found. Instead of stopping at each individual tree, just rock and roll on, and then when you have time, as going by with another pass, just cut off what you had missed before. So he had rented a skid steer for about $1,000, and he told me how much it cost, which helped me understand my pricing. And then it would take care of about half the job, and then you have to get out here and spend another couple of hours mowing. Weed eating, and it's really moist right there too. I think you could see the tracks before. So what's interesting is, because I'm out here doing most of what I'm doing with around these trees, with how maneuverable the articulated vent track is, it virtually eliminates the weed eating. Knocked it down to about 10 to 20% of what he had before. So that's really awesome. So that helped me understand more standing water. That helped me understand what I'm going to do for pricing, right? So he was emphatic that he wanted to have me out 4 times a year at $400. And being my first job, I'm like, okay. So this was my first job last winter of 2020. I guess it was maybe November or even possibly December of 2020. But see, you can see the tracks that I leave there, not ruts, but tracks through there. That's mud that has pushed down the grass, but I'm not sinking down in there. A skid steer, for example, a heavy skid steer will weigh 10,000 pounds, and they're on tracks, and there's no way they could get through this. So the skid steer that he would use, that he rented, was really heavy, and he had to wait until it was really, really dry. So he could really only do this once in the summertime, and if he was lucky, again, maybe in the fall. So after I did this initial one for him for $400, and I'm doing this one. This is the second time I've done this property for him, and I'm going to bump it up to about probably $500. I think is reasonable. It took me 3 hours the first time. This took me 2.5 hours, but you'll see I run into a problem on the second portion. All right, so even though that tree is dead right there, I went ahead and left it just to let him know very clearly that I am being careful of the trees that are out here that I'm supposed to be taking care of. So you can see the tires getting a little muddy. It's all right. I don't recall ever having lost traction at all. And I've got almost a 30-degree, I've got a 25-degree slope on the back of my hill, back of my yard, that is about 100 yards wide and about almost 25 yards deep. So that's me right there using the hydraulics to dip the, you can see down, I've got, from time to time I only have one row of tires on the high part of the ground. And so so I can hang over and get as much. There's another burn pile right there, and not a problem. Just got to make sure I know where they are. Most of these are pretty low, and one of the tricks that I use is if you've got not sort of a trick, but if you got a branch or a tree down, what have you, you can use your deck to move that around and not have to worry about it. Now this is the other part of that same side of the driveway. It's a little steeper, and it's got a big couple of mounds in there, etc. So I first went around the side of it like this, and then I pull up to the creek perpendicular. dip my deck down over top of it to get it squared away. That hydraulic, being able to lower that over the lip of anything is extremely helpful. So he's got a big hill right here, and my blades just went right into that, which is frustrating. But it looks like, I mean, so far it seems to me that the blades on this Tough Cut, even though I bought an extra set, are doing fine. All right, I mean, I go over, it says that you can only take down 2-inch trees, but I've gone over and taken down 4-inch honeysuckle before. Now, big stumps, no, is not going to happen at all. But honeysuckle, man, this thing will just chew it up. Now, a word of warning for you guys. What I've found is that I thought everybody, you know, everything I saw about a Ventrac was that it's just a tough, bad machine. I was thinking that it was pretty indestructible because I haven't operated equipment since I was a teenager, where we had a few acres and we had a big lawn tractor, a big old Cup Cadet. It was $3,000 back in the 70s and late 70s, and that was huge and expensive. I couldn't believe it, since cars were like $6,000 at the time, and so I haven't maintained equipment much. And so, I was taking this thing out and I was going over everything. But let me tell you, you got to be careful. If I know that might be stupid to some of you guys, but let me tell you specifically why on a Ventrac 4500. Because we're looking at the right side of the tractor right now. But if you look on the left side of the tractor, it's articulated, so it steers by a hydraulic control arm down the left-hand side. That control arm is exposed, okay? And I actually just emailed Ventrac yesterday, and I sent another separate email to my dealer that I work with out of Cincinnati, which is about an hour and a half north of me. You can see I'm going on either side of this. Just the dual wheels are just badass. Let me go anywhere, which is great. But you got to be really careful of the control arm, the hydraulic control arm on the left. I have hit it evidently on either rocks, ground, as I've gone over some sort of steep embankment, or I know that I've hit it on some stumps, and it's broken it apart. And I didn't realize it until I was pulling out my tractor out of my shed for use the next time, that there was a puddle underneath of it where it was leaking, and I looked and I could see it coming all out of the hydraulics. This is the opposite side, and right here, this is the day that a storm is coming, right? So I've gone across the creek real quick. I'll get back to my story in a second. And then all of a sudden, all right, so my serpentine belt broke, and I will come back. Let me show you what this property looks like over here, this side. So a creek here, this creek, then there's another creek that goes through there. There might even be two branches that come out of that pond. You can see the fountain. So I believe, so there's this one, and then there's that one goes right down the middle, and I think there's another one on the other side. We'll take a look, and right next to Keen Run Golf Course. All right, I'm back a couple of weeks later, and it's a gorgeous day, and I had to wait till the belt came in, because the spare belts I actually had, they'd sent me the wrong ones, because I had two spares, and I had the wrong one in my truck. So, I realized they were the wrong ones, so I called them and had them send me new ones, which is great. So now I keep spare belts in my car of everything. And so a couple things about the Tough Cut mower deck. You need to have spare belts. If it hits something that it doesn't like underneath, the immediate thing you can do is use the hydraulic, the SDLA lever, to immediately pull it towards your hip, and that will lift. So I do two things simultaneously. That's the quickest thing because your hands are already on that lever. So you just yank it towards your hip, and it raises it up and limits the contact with whatever the obstruction is going to be. The other thing I do is my hand bolts off the steering wheel and pushes in the PTO yellow button, which is right there up top of the right-hand picture there. And so, because I want to prevent damage, obviously, right? So, and then you back up. So I pull that SDLA towards me, back up, and I'm hitting the PTO turn off button almost all at the same time. And that's for some sort of hidden obstruction, okay? Because there's all kinds of stuff. And I found that the primary location for obstructions, if you're doing, because people are calling me and they have 6 to 8 foot tall weeds. I'm not kidding. They're easy to knock down. They're not thick like, excuse me, like honeysuckle would be, but they're tall. So anyway, there's stuff in there. Where's the stuff? Around buildings, specifically barns, okay? And the primary location is a gate, where a gate swings open. Typically, there will be something used to prop that gate open. So there will be cinder blocks, tires with the metal rims still inside the wheel, still inside them, all kinds of junk. And people put all kinds of stuff by barns. Tin that falls off the roof. That's just a normal place for folks just to throw stuff. So you got to be really careful going close to any barn with really tall weeds. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing some irregular mowing patterns just to show you guys what it looks like once I actually mow, because it's in the creek. You can see me just dipping down the creek. Ready? It's going to go down. Ready? No. Boop. Yeah. Well. Okay. There we go. So. I actually hop in this bed here and I drive down right there. So I've got all 4 of the right wheels, front 2 and the back two, just in that creek bed, going down, getting the edge. You can do that depending on the steepness or the depth of the creek. This grass was between, on this side it was a little thicker. This grass is around 2 feet tall or more. Some stuff is up to 4 feet tall, some of the flowering weeds, etc. All right, so the deck. So that's the way you avoid problems. Keep extra belts around, and then grease all the pulleys. I think there are like 8 grease points, one for each of the spindle hubs and then there are wheels, the 2 wheels up front, and then there are also wheels inside the deck that help it skid on both the right and left side, closest to you as being the operator. So here I've got all 4 right wheels in the creek bed, just going down. Oop, there's a stump right there, and I found several of the stumps the first time when I did this property by hitting them, because it was overgrown, 4 and 5 foot tall grass. But it's not a problem to get down. Now this stuff was kind of fun to mow, and this is some sort of an ivy, but not necessarily ivy, but some sort of overgrown stuff, really thick weeds, and it was full of moisture, but not a problem for the Tough Cut. But it was like oddly satisfying, because you'll see, on YouTube, there are these oddly satisfying videos, all kinds of funky stuff, but it was really cool to mow that. And I don't recall it being this thick last time I was here. You can see the tires, it's just over the tire height, right about equal to the tire height. Good stuff. Okay, so that covers some maintenance on the Tough Cut deck. The other thing is keep an eye on your temperature light, the heat sensor for the engine. And it's not necessarily engine oil. I mean, the engine oil is getting hot, but it's because you have a radiator that you can pull out. So you'll unhook the sides of the top, flip up the top, and right there in front of you, before the radiator, is going to be a preventative grate that catches stuff. All right, it's mesh, it's hard. It's thick, tough metal. Pull that out, and it's going to be full of stuff. Especially if you see stuff flying through the air on a super hot summer day, it's going to catch that by the fan, the intake. So that screen, that hard metal screen, is going to catch a bunch of stuff, and that's really important to keep your eye on. Something else is I strongly recommend for you to get in on your Ventrac is the $150 bucket full, or if you don't want, if you have it, if you're sending it to the dealership, have them fill all your tires with the puncture prevention goo stuff. I got a bucket of it for 150 bucks, and the pump comes separate. I don't know, 30 bucks or whatever, and I filled all my tires. I actually have an extra full tire and wheel assembly that I keep just in case I have some sort of a puncture. I want to have that on hand. So something else about Ventracs is you'll need to go in periodically and tighten all the screws. And here is a fourth creek in the property, and you can see I've got the two right tires totally off the edge, so it allows me to get to it quickly. The bottom portion there was really wet. Now there's some wet parts right here, but coming up is that's extremely wet right there, and I'll slow it down here just to give you an idea. So the mud is sort of seeping up, and this gives you a close-up. So I'm still staying on top, even though it's muddy, totally staying on top of the ground and not sinking down in, which is awesome. You see, that's a great video. And here is just a cleanup, right? Going in between the trees, cleaning up the stuff maybe that I didn't get during normal passes, just to really prevent my customer from having to do a lot of extra weeding. All right, guys, that's it. Let me know what questions you have about the equipment, about the property, the location, you name it, whatever it is, maintenance, and I'm happy to answer all your questions. Thanks a lot. Smash the like button. Talk to you soon.